Hey Sam, good to see you.
Hey, what's up, John? Good to see you. Looks like I always forget to shave whenever I have a video interview.
No, it's good, man. That beard is getting really thick. It's like a
It is,
proper
bro.
proper big man's beard now.
Yeah, bro. Needs to get trimmed, man. It looks like I took
Testosterone
some of
levels
your
are going
haircut.
through the fucking roof, bro.
You know it, bro. You know how it is, man. Looks like I took some of your beard, bro. What? You
My-
decided to cut
No,
off a few
I'm
years,
gonna
yeah?
grow it back. It's just because it's summertime. There's a few weeks of sunshine in the year in Ireland. I was like, if I don't shave my beard for at least a couple of weeks and get some sun on my face, I'll end up looking really, really pale and grim. So I
It
just
suits
cut
you
it
though,
off
man.
and I'll let it grow back now as we come into winter.
I feel you. You know, some guys, myself included, when they shave, it just ruins it, man. You're not one of those guys, bro. You're still looking like a straight 10, bro. With a
That the thing is with guys, if they keep the beard for years, when they shave it off, it's like corpse skin underneath. It's all
yeah.
gray and dead looking, and it takes a couple of weeks to start looking human again.
Oh man, I didn't even want to find out.
um.
How's it going, dude? All
So
good?
yeah, I better introduce you because I just start these rolling. I this is
Yeah.
not a podcast format. This is just a like conversation between people, like-minded people who like each other.
Yeah.
And that's the same format I do every week. So this is my friend Sam Saifi. Sam and I have known each other, God, what, since about 2, 3 years now?
I think it's coming up to like three and yeah, about 3 years now. Since
Yeah.
since I just started when I was writing copy still, right? Like literally one of the first few people I connected with.
And
Thankfully
Sam
so.
is, yeah, Sam is an entrepreneur, agency owner based in London, and has been growing rapidly with his e-commerce agency business, doing email marketing for 7 and 8 figure brands for the last 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, I started off doing white labeling. I think it was a year ago, but Revenue Labs itself has, I think, been around for about a year and 6 months now.
Mm-hmm.
Year and yeah, about a year and 6 months.
Well, let's go
And
back a little bit further, Sam. When was the first time you ever typed how to make money online into Google?
oh wow, first time I typed that in, man. So I was this was actually when I was still working at my 9 to 5 job. I had a sales job. I was doing cold calling straight into the boiler room.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think at that point, John, I was kind of at a time where I was just like, okay, I'm probably never going to get a down payment for a mortgage. That's how I was thinking back then.
What age were you?
And sorry.
What age were you at that time?
I think it was like 20, I think, yeah, 25 or 26, one of the two.
Okay.
I think everything's a big blur now, dude. Like, you know what I mean? When you're just
Mm-hmm.
so much in the trenches. But 25, 26, I was in this job and kind of contrary to what a lot of people think, I actually really enjoyed like the work to some degree. We had a great team, a great manager. In fact, having a good manager actually showed me like what good leadership is. So I was very lucky to have a good environment, but it just the work itself and the environment, I guess, it just didn't fill my soul. So I was looking for ways to make money online, and as a cliche, that's exactly what I was typing. I think right before we met, like maybe it's been 4 years now. I was typing in how to make money online.
No, it wasn't so long because I know that I met you not long after you had started to get a lot of traction. One of your early things that really got you out there and got people noticing you and paying attention to you was you did an interview with Alex
Labz.
Catoni after you went through
Yeah,
her program. And I met you not
exactly.
long after that. So do you want to talk about that and how that really accelerated your growth?
Yeah, dude, totally. Basically, when I was in the when I joined the program, my back was against the wall financially, pretty hard. So I made a commitment, and I just said, "Look, I'm going to show up to this program in the best way possible." And yeah, I think that's a whole nother tangent, a whole nother conversation too, in terms of how people show up for courses and whether it works for them or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have a choice. So for me, I had to take that material and make something with it. And I showed up like a somebody who had a lot to lose, even though I had nothing to lose. So yeah, tried hard. And I got results, man. Some pretty quick results. I took a lot of action, and Alex noticed. I got a few clients right at the start, and I just showed up differently in terms of the best way I could. And yeah, Alex invited a few of us on to an interview. I gave my piece on like the whole copy and my journey and stuff, and seems like a lot of people resonated with it, man. So it's really grateful to be able to give my piece. And that's pretty much how it all kicked off.
And I mean, that's one piece of content that you created with Alex was like 3 years ago now, right?
Yeah, 3 years ago, I believe it's her most watched interview, if I'm not mistaken, at the moment, out of
I've
all of,
checked that. It's she's got more popular content of like personal stuff, but of all
yeah.
the interviews she's done with other people, your interview is the most popular one, or at least it was like 2 weeks ago when I checked it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, dude, that's humbling. And since that interview, it's like I've had a lot of people reach out to me, a lot of people ask for mentorship. Like it's just opened a whole bunch of avenues. I had the current copy team that are at Revenue Labs reached out to me, who I took under my wing for copy, and they're still with us today. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just the amount of opportunities something like that opened up was incredible, man.
Yeah.
So
So
super
there's
grateful.
two things I want to respond to there. The first one is it's about that like key connections. Like I've talked about this several times. There's
Mm,
one person I know in the industry who made who I connected with. Well, I connected with him in summer 2020, and I never did a lot of work with him directly. Um, but he has been like the biggest source of revenue to my business in that he made strategic introductions to one or two successful people, including Matt, who we both know and have both done business with.
of
The
course.
person who introduced me to Matt, I can see like pretty much half of all the money I've made in the last 3 years is downstream of one person, the guy who introduced me to Matt. Well, I'm just
Incredible.
going to respect his privacy and not say who it is.
Yeah,
He's a
of
great guy,
course.
but
Of course.
it's just crazy like that. It's like these single connections are the things like that. They become huge pivot points, big hinges that you can swing a door on, and it's crazy how that happens. But you never know beforehand who it's going to be, and that's why you have to always be reaching out and talking to new people.
Exactly. I think if I could attribute, a lot of when I say success is relative, right? Of course, but I mean the metamorphosis from where I was to where I am now. I think a lot of it can honestly be attributed to the people that I've met rather than what it is that I've done. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of people don't really realize. It's like networking and learning to network the right way, showing up for people, offering value. I know it's kind of touted time and time again, but man, I cannot emphasize how life changing meeting certain people in my journey was, yourself included. I remember there was a time where I was just starting off in my agency and I was going through my own rocky cutscene and I didn't know what was going on. And I still remember this was when I was transitioning from being a copywriter to an agency owner. And this was right in the transition. And this is something I'm going to kind of divulge as well. It was like I was at a point where I'd lost all of my copy clients due to COVID. COVID hit. I was writing for a company that did like catering or something like that, and they literally lost all of their like you can imagine like the impact that a business like that would have during COVID. And I had like three clients on retainer at that point. Life was great, and all of a sudden everyone went defensive in COVID, and that totally impacted me. And it kind of just made me go literally from pretty much a six-figure income to zero, like overnight. Overnight, I lost everything. And I still remember this day. I sat on a curb, and I didn't even smoke. And at that point, I sat on a curb, and I bought a pack of cigarettes because I was just stressed as hell.
It's bad when you go buy a pack of smokes.
So I bought a pack of cigarettes, and I just lit a cigarette. I started smoking. I was sat on a curb, and I just sat there. I'm like, damn. I'm like you rose so fast, and there we go, you lost it all. And the prayer at that day, I was like, God, like I need some help. I don't know what's going on. And funny enough, you actually referred me some business the very next day,
I didn't know
and it's
that. So that's
crazy
awesome.
how things happen. But you referred me some business the next day that gave me a gap. Did a good job through that business too, and you referred it to me, and that helped me fill the gap and rebuild to everything that I have today. So it's crazy how little connections and people that you meet over your life can be so pivotal to change, the course of everything. So, I want to say thank you for that, John.
That's
And
beautiful.
it's a
Thanks,
real,
Sam. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
yeah, it's a real testament to how people can change things.
Yeah. You talked a minute ago about, you when you were sort of going through the process of like developing skills that you kind of put yourself in a situation where you really financially were in tough times and you have to make it work. And I just think this is something that's coming up again and again recently is like gun to the head, like triggering that massive stress response is often how you get the best output out of yourself. It's like, gun to the head, this has to work or I'm in real deep shit. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not always going to guarantee success, but it guarantees that you're going to put in the very best you've got to give.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're in the corner, that's when the real dog comes out, right? So
That's
put it, right? It's like you get like this animalistic instinct that comes out when you're so pushed into a corner.
mm-hmm.
And at that point, you just go like, this is how I react. I think everyone reacts differently, right? I think some people react negatively to stress and they need more of like a situation. And just to put it out there, I'd never want to be in a situation like that again because it's like
Yeah.
it's way too primal. But when you get to that zone, oh man, you just do everything you can. And at that point, I think where I was at was I just said, look, I'm gonna put everything I have in the rest, the outcome I leave up there because at this point, how much further can you go? I'll literally just do my best. And it's funny when you do that, things tend to materialize. Even if it's not the ideal thing, something will materialize that will give you a bit of breathing room, and then that will snowball over time.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned how people react to stress, that some people react better than others. And that
Yeah,
you mentioned you wouldn't want to be in that situation again. But here's the thing is like having been in that situation and come through it once, and I've been in the shit many times, financial problems, personal stuff, whatever. Like at this point in my life, I know it's only a matter of time. Like, things can be going great, but there's always going to be some bullshit that shows up when you least expect it. But the key thing at this point in my life is like, hey, I've dealt with all the previous bullshit. If some new bullshit comes along, I'll probably be able to figure out a solution. So like, yeah, being stressed like that makes you more stress resistant. And I think,
yeah.
people want to avoid stress. It's dangerous. Like, obviously you don't want to bring more stress into your life than you need to, but testing yourself is the way to become more stress resistant.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Testing yourself is absolutely the way to become more resistant because it understands where your limit is. And I think one thing that's really important to go on from this tangent, John, is actually two things. Number one, right? I see like, and I had to learn this the hard way. When you're doing good, lean in harder. Don't recline. Right? That's
Mm.
number one, and that's a mistake I think a lot of people who just get started make. It's like they similar like they get some kind of success, they start cruising, and then life gives them the almighty smack in the face, and then it's like you have to rebuild momentum again, right? So I think the biggest thing is when you get that flywheel going and you start to see success, I implore you, whoever is listening to this, keep going and keep pushing that flywheel to go faster because
Yeah.
your success will multiply on itself rather
Double
than
down.
recline and coast. Double down, triple down. I'd go as far as saying, like, double down is not enough. You need to triple down. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, and this is mostly to the young folk, when you start to make some money, the worst thing you can do is go and buy a Rolex or do some dumb shit. Like, just don't do it, man. Just don't. Like, just because you're gonna get to a point where sometimes I don't know. Maybe you're one of those lucky people, or super hardworking people that are dialed in, and you've got it all planned out, and you will never see the downside again. But in case you want, I always say, unless you have 100K cash in the bank, you have no business doing absolutely anything and changing any of your lifestyle whatsoever.
Yeah.
When you
Because
have
the tax man's
100K,
coming knocking.
exactly, maybe the tax man, there's like a thousand other things, like in this space, it's so convoluted. Like, oh, I'm making 10K. Okay, how much are you actually keeping? With enough data that I've had from people I've spoken to, probably not a lot, especially with the dumb stuff people spend on, right? Aside from that, like learn financial planning, like learn a financial system. So what happens when money comes into your bank account? The first thing you should do is spread it out in the correct way so that all of your bases are covered. Give yourself a bullshit fund is what I call it, where you can go and have fun, do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you like pizza, go buy pizza. If you like this, go and do this. But then make sure that you have a system of some kinds as you get money, because that will help you so much, and it will help you layer a foundation to give you the peace to then create everything that you want to, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's just my two
absolutely.
cents.
The most basic one of all is just have two bank accounts. One is for your personal life and one is for your business life. And your money that comes into your business goes into the business bank account. And then whatever you need for your personal life goes from that into the second account, and never mix them up.
Yeah, totally, 100%, absolutely. So important. I go as far as having like 5 accounts, and I just separate all my stuff, and that's because when you have like when you have money in one single account, you don't have visibility on what you're able to spend on if you're not budgeting, right? And there's so many people that I've spoken to, man. They have this amazing bank balance and they just start ripping into it, and then it doesn't end very well. So I say, like, keep your current accounts broke and kind of keep your storehouses full on the back. So you know that you have security, but then on a day-to-day basis, you're always kind of like eye on the ball.
Oh, that's the other one. It's the savings account should be the one that you can't get to. Like our savings account, myself and my wife, we have that where there's no card. You have to go into the branch and physically sign for the money if you want it. And it's a
Oh
two
wow.
signature account. So we
Oh
both have
wow.
to discuss, agree, take time out and drive to the bank, and both of us sign at the same time before we can spend money from that account. And it means that we never use that money unless we're both sure it's the right decision.
I hope you guys don't have an argument, man. No, but that's yeah. Like I think yeah, like putting your savings away somewhere where you can't really access them unless you really need to, I think is such a powerful thing, man.
Yeah,
It's such a powerful
absolutely.
thing. Like absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. I just said I did a post today about my tax accountant Jennifer, who is like, she's an awesome person. She's been advising me since the beginning, and like she's been advising me for 5 years, and it's really only this year I'm actually implementing the stuff she's been telling me she's to do properly. And she's just such a patient person. Like she really could have fired me as a client long ago and said, like,
Mm.
you're not doing what you're supposed to do, but she's just worked with me, been patient, gently guided me, and finally I'm coming around this year to it. I like engaged a proper bookkeeper, getting monthly management accounts for my business I never had before, um, tax planning ahead of time, and she's been like instrumental in making all that happen. But at the beginning, I couldn't be told. Like I was just like, oh, I can't think about this. It's not important, and it's not important. Well, actually, sorry, it's super important, but it's not urgent. So you think all
Mm.
this other urgent shit is more important, and you leave it in the background, and suddenly 2 years later, a letter, usually in a plain envelope, comes through the door that scares the living crap out of you from, some authority who can
Oh
really
yeah.
basically throw you in jail if they want to, and saying you've got to sort your shit out right now. And at that point, it's like, oh, why didn't I listen to all that great advice that my accountant's been giving me the last
100%.
2 years?
100%, man. It's that, yeah, it's that letter that throws everybody off, man. And I also like I can relate a lot like to delaying it because I delayed it for like the longest time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I would just like literally I was so bad that like I would just take money off my business account whenever I needed to spend. I had no system whatsoever. I didn't even know what I was doing. And I started to consume a bit of content on how to do it. I don't know what happened, dude. One weekend I just sat down. I think I was awake until like this was a late night. And sometimes I like to stay up late night in the weekends because it kind of gets me in this creative zone where I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like the world is asleep and I'm just like I just like to tackle problems. It's a bit weird, but
Agree.
it's like I was in that zone, right? And I feel like every single teaching that I've ever had of Excel, finances, formulas, and like gross profit, net margin, like all those kind of buzzwords, right? It just came to me that night, and I just built a financial dashboard, and I just sat there for 3 hours, and I said, okay, what do I need visibility on? I need visibility on this. I don't know what happened, bro, but 3 hours later, I had like a full-on financial dashboard that I still use today, just to kind of keep an eye on, like a model, like a financial model. So at any
Mm-hmm.
time I can open it and I can see where I'm at. And that was like, I use that more than actually looking at my accounts. Maybe that's not a good thing, but
No,
it
it
just
is a good
really
thing.
gives me visibility on what's going on, you know?
Having one place where you can see what matters is, because diving into accounts can get overwhelming really quickly. Like, oh, it's all crap, and I'll pay attention, and you switch to something else. But if you got one place where you can look and it's clean and neat and easy, you say, okay, here's where my money's at. And this is stuff
100%.
people don't talk about enough. Like something like that in itself, Sam, something like that can actually be a product, because like a lot of early stage entrepreneurs just have no clue. It's just like money in, money out, and they don't know where the hell it all goes.
Dude, 100%. I feel like there's a lot of people that talk about the surface level stuff. Like, I think there's a lot of info out there. But then when it comes to like how to actually manage the back end of your life, I don't think it's quite a boring topic comparatively, but that's the topic that's going to separate you from actual pain and actual, like pleasure, in
Yeah,
my opinion, you know?
yeah. It's the boring stuff that keeps you alive in the end.
100%. Yeah. But I'm not an accountant, so it's just good fun to dive into that stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned about like cruising and coasting, and that's certainly been a problem for me over the years. And it's happened so many times where like things are going really good, you're getting to space, like this nice comfortable cash cushion in the bank. You think, oh, you know what, I can just chill for a while. I don't really need to work so hard. It's all going good, and then it just starts it. And the funny thing is like it's like going to the gym. It's like you work so hard to get a little bit fitter, and you take 1 week off and you backslide 3 weeks. I've read accounts that it's like it takes 4 times as long to build muscle as to lose it. You know, I'm not sure if that's actually true, but I think that's a general rule of thumb. Like basically 1 week off sets you back 4 weeks of progress if with the gym. So you have to really go every week, or there's no choice. It doesn't work otherwise.
100%.
And the same thing happens with business and work. Like you slack off for 2 weeks, that sets you back 6 or 8 weeks.
Not only that, I think that 100%. Like it's not only does it set you back. I think the craziest thing is it's like when you're in an area where you're actually coasting and life's going great, what you don't realize is there's something that's going on in the background where you like, and again, just to clarify, this doesn't mean you're not allowed to let loose, you're not allowed holidays, you're not allowed breaks. That's not the memo here, right? But I'm saying when people start coasting, they start coasting over long periods of time and they don't do it strategically. Strategic holidays, time for rest and recovery, absolutely crucial. We're in the athletics game as business owners, right? It is a form of sport, and it is the most brutal sport in the world. You need to be switched on, you need to be ready, and you need rest. Like an athlete cannot work 100% of the time, right? But where I'm kind of trying to go with this is when you start to coast and you have no time limit or structure around, okay, this is my rest time, you just start to coast long term. What's happening in the background is the strings are slowly getting unstrung one by one. You can't see it, right? And it all hits in a certain moment where you don't have a pipeline for nothing. And then it takes time to hit the point where you're in danger zone, and then it takes time to get out of the danger zone. So as you're slipping down the slide, you don't realize that it's going to take you just the amount of time to also get back up the slide. That's what they say. It's like it takes you. What was the saying here? It takes you like 3 months to really realize that your pipeline is dry or something like that, and then it takes you but when you're in that mode, you're almost next to being screwed, right? Yeah. But then it takes you time to rebuild it. So that's why I always say, like, man, when you're doing good, like, don't kick that flywheel. Keep going, like, build on your, like, success loves speed and momentum, right? So like, just keep building and leaning into it, like, get better. When you've grown really high, then you can be like, okay, now I need to systemize this. That's when you can kind of start taking hats off, systemize, delegate, but then take a bit of a small season where you kind of like lean in, relax, gather yourself, go out, have fun, come back in and just go straight back into it,
Yeah, I saw that this year. I slacked off a little bit too much in like kind of May, June. And it was like I had a holiday coming up in July that I really couldn't, it was a family wedding, so I couldn't say I'm not going or change it. And I thought, oh, I shouldn't have done this holiday, blah, blah, blah. And I really didn't do things right. I let things slide. And then the holiday came up and, we have to do it. Let's go do it. And then I had this moment of clarity. I was like, this can't happen anymore. It's just no good. I am absolutely, this is not happening. This pattern has to end. And I took steps. I got into a different program about it. I'm working with somebody on it and made some serious changes. And like, since I came back from that holiday, like in 28 days, I did more business than I'd done in 2.5 months before that, and delivered more work, collected more cash than I had done in the previous 10 weeks. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. When you commit, man, I think, that's it. And the crazy thing is I think life is in extremes, dude. It really is, man. Like, and I think most people I speak to, they live in extremes, right? It's like they have seasons where they're just, balls to the wall. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
no, of course you can say whatever you like.
Yeah, balls to the wall. And then some seasons where you're just like flat out relaxing. Normally for me, that's like towards the winter time, because I think most things slow down. So that's when I kind of allow myself to just relax a little bit more, be calm, especially after Black Friday, like that period. We still have systems in place, so that's good. And then, pick it up at the start of the year. And then, summer seems to slow down, but that's, I think, when I should go harder next time. So, a lesson.
If you are kind of more career minded and you want to work inside an organization or a corporation, that suits a personality type that likes consistency and a relatively steady state, even though obviously if you're a careerist, you want to move the ladder, you have to push hard in those spaces too. But if you're going to do this thing where you're basically at home alone, you and your computer, and you're going to create a life for yourself out of whatever shits between your ears, you have to be an extremist. There's really no other way, because, it's extremely unlikely things are going to work out unless you become an extreme personality.
100%. And also, it's like our brain defaults to being chilled out. We are chilled out people by nature. We like to rest, relax, and we don't like the pain, right? And I think the only difference when you're working is you have somebody that's going to kick your ass if you don't perform when you're working, right? So
Hmm.
you kind of like you kind of hit go up and then you kind of flatline. You go up and then you flatline, whatever, because you always have that thing like, oh, I need to deliver, otherwise I'm going to get fired, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But I think the hardest part when you're working on your own is you've got no one ready to kick your ass if you're slacking, right? The only thing like
Yes.
life kicks your ass when you're slacking, and at that point, it's like you go like feast famine, whatever it is. But I think when you can start realizing and kind of be that accountability figure to yourself, or set up friends that keep you accountable who are very like self motivated, because then you're kind of like looking, and again, it boils down to your company, right? When you have friends that are winning around you or trying hard or putting in work, you're looking at them and you're like, oh crap, like I need to pick it up myself. So it doesn't really allow you to slack because your circle isn't slacking.
Yeah.
So
Agree.
I think that's like super important too.
The accountability thing is it's interesting because it's like I see it slightly differently. Like I've tried accountability, like partner accountability with other people, and for me it doesn't work. I feel like then it
No,
starts to create this like a negative, because you expect it to chastise each other or something. It creates like that accountability works inside a marriage. Like me and my wife have to hold each other accountable because we got a family to raise together.
yeah,
But with business engagements, friends, other people, I'm just like, no, I can't, I don't want to be accountable to them. I didn't sign up to do that way. I'm accountable to myself. But on the other hand, inspiration from people around is absolutely true. Like once you start to do this and you take it seriously, it's like, who do I want close to me? Well, I want people who are actually have similar goals, that are like-minded, who are trying to make their life better, who are trying to be successful. And you mentioned success earlier, but that's a very relative term. But success, from in my definition, is like is you're making your life better than it was yesterday, and you're moving forward with the idea that the best is yet to come. And
100%,
yeah, so like
100%.
those having those people around you just points out that actually this is where you want to go, and if those people are on it, you better be on it too, or you're going to get left behind. The people
Oh
you
yeah,
care about.
100%. Like the way you described it, I think is so true. Like I think accountability from a far more structured perspective, like, oh, let's meet every Tuesday, bro, and see what we've done. It's like over time that fizzles out. Some people make it work. Like I said, there's always outliers, or there's always an exception to what I say. But for me personally, very similar to you, it was more natural accountability. And what I mean by that is just surrounding yourself with people who have similar ambitions and goals, who have a similar drive to you. Like my friend just called me the other day and he's like, hey Sam, like I just hit like a certain financial goal that like we both had for a while. And then that makes you be like, oh man, like I need to hustle, and like not hustle, I don't like that word, but
I need to catch up with you.
I need to catch up. Exactly, right. And like that's like what I consider natural accountability. And it's not all financially motivated, right? Like finance
Yeah.
is just one small sector of an overall life, right? The way you define success is just like exactly like you said, just what avenues of life are important to you and how can you better yourself in those avenues. That ultimately is success. And how you define success is what category do you find most important and valuable to you. So for me, for example, being fit is a category that I find very important. For me, I'm religious. Getting close to God, or being good in my religion, is a very strong character a strong category for me. My character, how I come across to others and how I treat others, that's a big thing that I want to improve myself in. And then finances, absolutely. Career, money is important. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a liar. It is important to me. It's something I want to get better at. But yeah, I think the first three for me are like your health and your character, right? Like your character, how you show up, to the world. Your health, because otherwise there's no point having $1 million, or whatever it is, whatever your goal is, without health. And yeah, that's how I see it. That's how I would define success if someone would ask me.
So you went from copywriting for clients to founding an agency, and you made a move from sort of coaching and info product space across to the e-commerce space. So can you sort of, and you didn't do this, like this wasn't a random decision. You made a strategic decision. I'm going to grow a business. This is the category I want to be in. This is the kind of business that's going to work for where I'm at in life and where I want to get to next. So can you talk a little bit about your thought process and how you decided to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think where it started was I was writing copy. I was writing a lot. I was continuously writing, and I was kind of in a place where I was just like writing the same stuff, selling courses to people and selling all this stuff. And, I like everything I learned was from a course. So I actually respect courses, and still till today, I buy courses and I'm still
Mhm.
learning stuff just to try and get that edge, right? But then when you're continuously trying to sell like biz off courses and stuff like that, it just jades you a little bit, right? Like there are great courses. I'm not knocking on them and I never want to because I genuinely believe they help. But then when you're continuously saying, hey, this person's story, buy this course, it will make you a million, like it just jades you, right? And funny enough, this is another side story. I met, I think maybe some of you guys might know Iman. I met Iman a while ago when he was
Iman
16.
Gadzi.
Iman Gadji, yeah. So I met him. He's a good friend of mine. I met him a while ago when he was building his businesses and all that stuff at 16. And it was him who gave me the tip off to get into email marketing because I was lost. And I remember I was at dinner with him and I asked him, I said, dude, like I'm writing copy, I'm writing all the time. It's great money. I'm earning good money at this present moment. Again, good money relative, but I was earning good, from where I was prior. Like definitely, I'd leveled up a lot, and I just was getting tired of just being sat there writing copy. Right, this was just me personally. So I asked him, like, dude, what do you suggest as the next step? And he just says, dude, just do email marketing for ecom because it's like it kind of goes back to like the whole theory of skill stacking, right? It's like you have a skill. My base was writing, but then how can I now package the service? And for me, the biggest issue was I didn't really have visibility of what my emails did for people because they were all an active campaign and I wasn't in the platform doing the setup. I was just writing, right? And sometimes the clients didn't really tell me like what impact I guess my copy had. They did to some degree. I saw open rates and stuff, but I wanted to see like the money. It's like how much money is this email making,
Show me
right?
that money.
Show me the money. Yeah, because then like it's like Alex Hormozy says, right? He's like confidence comes from evidence. When you don't, when people are opening your emails, that's a good little ego boost. But it's like, how much is the email making? Like, how much money is it driving you? Right? I want to see that because it gives me evidence and reinforces it to myself. So that's when everything amalgamated. Eman told me, dude, go and do e-commerce email marketing. That's when I met Pete, and then I understood Klaviyo, how Klaviyo attributes, and you can actually see, the money being made. And then after that, like I understood, um, how okay, now I have this base of copy. I can also add design to the elements. I can also provide a real tangible value and an offer that produces a real outcome for businesses. And that's kind of where I put it together and yeah, went into the world I'm in now.
Awesome. And do you want to talk a little bit about your agency, what you do, and kind of where you've started off and where you've grown to now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we run a life cycle agency for e-commerce stores. So we specialize in email and SMS. We're also adding another service. I won't go too much into that yet, but something cool coming too. Um, and yeah, we help e-commerce agencies basically be far more profitable from email. The saddest thing I see, man, all the time is a lot of e-commerce owners, they think they're doing email correctly, but man, the amount of revenue that you can make if you actually do email properly is just absolutely insane. And when we do have clients that work with us, it's actually beautiful just to see where they've come from and where they go to when you apply an area of expertise in someone else's business, and especially when a company has a good product market fit. Because a quick caveat here, you can't help a company without a product market fit, right? If they're struggling for traffic, like they have different issues, right? But the crazy thing is everybody needs an email system. If you're still trying to crack ads, you need email to help you recuperate some of that funds, that you're spending on the ads, right? But if you have a product market fit, you have solid traffic running and you don't have an email system, like the lowest hanging fruit in your business is to get those automations in place and start actually nurturing your audience, understanding what they want. And there's so many areas around email. A lot of people like they attribute email just to revenue. Yes, revenue is the North Star, right? But there are so many things, man. Getting UGC, qualitative data, zero party amount of information you can get on your customer when you build a relationship with them via email and you set it up correctly, it can literally change your entire business. So that's what makes me passionate, pretty much about what I do, man. It's like the hidden areas of what we know how to do with email and that we can apply kind of into businesses. And that's why, we've been around for like a year and 6 months. Some clients have signed on with us 2 months, and we have a retention of like well over a year and 3, 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
like clients who we've started with, I'm grateful that they've been with us ever since, and continue to be with us.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what helps me get up in the morning, dude.
Talk more about retention, because this is the thing people maybe don't think about as much. And it's like keeping the customer is even more important. Well, getting them, you have to get them, you can't keep them. But once you got them, what are you going to do with them?
Absolutely. So the way I'd always put this is customer lifetime value is one of the key metrics you want to improve with your email, right? So if I have an ad ecosystem, let's say I spend $20 to acquire a customer. Let's say, John, you see an ad, cost me $20 to acquire you. Now you come into my ecosystem and you purchase, right? On average, an e-commerce business will have like what 30%, like 30% is their cost of goods, so the 70% margin minus what you've spent in ads. So that's your little bit of profit, right? And then on top of that, you need to run your business. So you need to keep the lights on, pay staff, all that stuff. So that's your profit, right? But with email, you can increase your lifetime value by actually building a relationship with this customer, having them purchase multiple times. So now you see how your profit has gone entirely up. Email has almost no cost attached to it to send at scale. And now, minus your COGS, everything else is profit. So if it costs me $20 to get you as a customer, you come into my ecosystem and you purchase, let's say, another 4 times, that's how profitable you are as a customer. And that's what email does. It amplifies your lifetime value and your overall profitability per customer. So you can literally transform your business just on the back end.
Mm-hmm. And with you, are you working alone? Do you have a team? How do you actually run things on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, dude, I attribute all of my success literally to our team, man. Like our team is the superstars of what we do. We have a team. We have head of Clavio, head of operations, 2 superstar copywriters as well, superstar designers. And our team and building systems to not only give your team a process, but allow them to have creative freedom as well, I think is like the sweet spot. But yeah, we definitely have a team. They are, like our results are a real attribution to them as people and as like their skills as individuals too. And yeah, I think a team is super important to have, man. Otherwise, you I always say, especially with something like email marketing, there are like kind of 4 roles, right? You have a strategy, you have copy, you have design, and then you have a technical ability. And normally people can thrive in 1 or 2 of these, right? You might be a great copywriter, but then not have a clue about design. So it's really hard to get email marketing right with just like a freelancer or a single person.
Mm-hmm.
Get an amalgamation of 2 people. And that's why I like to say, like, you need an expert in every area just so you get the best overall results.
How have you made a transition from working solo to actually managing a team? What sort of stuff have you done to become a better leader?
What have I done to become a better leader? That's a really good question. Um, I think I think the baseline of what I've done, man, is just look in the mirror and just really realize what I suck at and what I need to be better at, and just ask for feedback from my team, how I can show up better as a leader. Also, when you transition into more of like a management role slash entrepreneurial role, um, there is a bit of a metamorphosis. Initially, I felt guilty that I wasn't really doing the work, and I think that's a big area you need to get over. That you need to like a hurdle to get over, because as the work is getting done, you free up a bit of your time, and you're just kind of sat there like, oh man, like this feels weird, right? Like because
What do
normally
you
I'm the one in
now?
the trenches. I'm not. What am I meant to be doing here, right? So I think that's the first hurdle, to understand that now your role is switched. The nature of your role is different. You need to be thinking high level, coming up with different strategies, and coming up with the direction of the business and putting the right people in the right seats, basically, right? Once you figure out how to do that, you need to be brutally honest with yourself, right? Am I like an annoying leader? Am I, how am I showing up to people, right? The more self awareness that you have as a leader, I think that is what helps the most. The more self-aware you are, the better a leader you are, just in general, because you understand the I don't have to speak English today. You understand like the impact of your actions and the things you say, the things you do, the way you show up, how you deal with people, even on a granular level. Like if someone messes up, how you deal with it. So I think there's a book I have. It's called Extreme Ownership. Very good book.
Yes, Jocko Willink, right?
Exactly, Jocko Willink. So yeah, just how you show up as a leader and how you give autonomy to your team. I think those are 2 big areas to improve yourself overall as a leader.
the self-awareness thing, because it's such a vague term, but like for me, what matters in self-awareness in interpersonal situations, and there's self-awareness for how you're living your life, but there's also interpersonal self-awareness. It's like paying attention to the emotional reactions of people to your actions and your utterances. If you're, whatever response you get from a person, that's telling you whether where you're going right, where you're going wrong. And
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think that where I've seen like leadership fail, and when I failed myself in anything I've done, is where I haven't been thinking about how is the other person feeling about what I'm saying and doing.
Absolutely. I think these things are thrown around like all these buzzwords, like, oh, you need to care or you need to be empathetic and stuff, right? Like some people look at that stuff and be like, what are you talking about? But if I give you a live example, let's say something goes wrong, right? If you're not empathetic and you don't care, all you're looking at is the result didn't get done and you just go in, brutally. And then you're actually giving a negative experience to the person that you're working with. And then that's going to affect you way more in the long term. Whereas if I position myself mentally as let me sit next to this person and work through whatever they're going through with them and try to, it's like you just, you empower people. And I think that's the main thing. It's like, how can I empower anybody that comes into my life? And this comes from the saying I always have in my head. Like whenever you enter somebody's life, you must always elevate them in any way. And that should be your North Star with anybody that you meet. If I have come across you and you have come across me in our paths, whenever I meet you, I would like to uplift you either in your confidence, either in your mind, your self-perception of yourself, your self-perception of the world, your self-perception of others, in any freaking way. It's like, how can I be a positive force in your life? And I think that is the North Star that I like to operate with. And how can we how can I sit next to you and kind of attack this with you rather than me versus you? But yeah, that's
it's awesome, Sam. And I must say that is true of you, that you're always a very encouraging person every time we've ever talked for the last few years. And that's why we've remained good friends. And I mean, I find myself just like anyone, online, it's very easy to get sucked into negativity. It's easy to be a smart ass. It's easy to be a critic. And like, it's so important to remind yourself when that shit happens, is like, you're not hurting anybody else. You're only always hurting yourself the most when you slip into that negative, critical, skeptical mindset. Not that you don't need to be a little bit skeptical and to protect yourself, but if you find yourself pointing your finger at somebody else, you're usually doing the most damage to yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people don't realize like how much your inner world can change. And I think honestly, man, I've seen a lot of leaders, a lot of things. A lot of the way people react to situations is just a reflection on how they feel inside. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. But if you show up negatively and you're a spiteful person, that's because you have inner demons that you've not, taken care of yourself. And even though you might find it hard between all the layers within you to address that, it's like the only person who's at the ultimate loss is you. So yeah, that's why I always say, like, just liberate yourself internally, like do the inner work, heal your own shit inside, and show up to people well and lift them up. And man, the amount of goodwill that snowballs out of being that way is unreal. Also, you sleep, like I fall asleep in 2 minutes, bro. I sleep good at night because I know I'm not, doing any shit to anybody. Like, and that's the best feeling, man. When you're light in your soul, light in your heart, light in your mind, you operate with good faith. You go out there, you get the results. You care about your clients, you care about your team, you care about the people around you, your friends, people you love, and you just give your best every day. Like, how can you lose, bro? It's just, you can't lose.
It's a long road to that realization for people, especially if it's later in life when they have that wake up call like I did. It's a long road to realization. Like, you know what? All the problems come from inside me, and every time I look outside at somebody else, it's not fixing the situation. It's just a distraction. It's like, look back in the mirror.
100%.
All the bullshit in your life is right there in the mirror looking back at you.
Trust me, man. Everyone has a different path to it. My personal path to it was through faith. That helped me so much, man. Just had a pillar of my life, some serious grounding in the way I thought about things, and it just kind of gives you an iron will, iron mentality, and just infinite optimism. Maybe a bit delusional, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Hey, I think I talked about this recently on Twitter. Is like, when you meet people who are really successful, a lot of the time you chat to them, they seem hype. They seem absolutely fucking delusional. Some of the stuff they say, you think that sounds so ridiculous. But the whole point is like, well, if that's a lot of people act like they're delusional, maybe it's a competitive advantage to be a little bit delusional, because if you're not a little bit delusional, you're going to get ground down by all the negativity and by all the people saying, no, that doesn't work, or no, that you're going to fail, blah, blah, blah. So like being delusional can insulate you from a lot of bullshit in the world.
100%, dude. I don't know
There's
if
a
you
fine
said
line.
this.
There's a fine
There is a
line.
fine line. There is a fine line. I think someone else probably said this, right? But the most recent memory I have of this quote was, I'm a big UFC fan, so I saw Israel Adesanya. This was his rematch against Alex Pereira, a guy that has beaten him, I think, twice, 3 times, something like that in the past. And he used to say, it's like the ones who think they're crazy enough to change the world are the ones who are, right? I think that's a Steve Jobs quote or something. I don't know. Some
People have said
amazing
it.
person. Yeah, a few people have said it, right? But it's not about who said it. It's more about the essence of what it is. It's like, you gotta believe what most people are not willing to believe, because the fundamental of achieving anything is belief. If I don't believe I can win, or I don't believe I can do this, how the hell am I going to do it? My whole physiology, my whole mind, every cell, the whole biochemistry within me is going to block me from achieving it, because I inherently don't believe I will, right? So if you can caveat that, and if you can hack your brain to think you can do it, something, well, I don't know, like some things are hard to explain from a straight up perspective, but something
Because it's not a
innately
rational
towards it.
thing. It's not
It is not
rational.
rational, yeah. It's
No,
just not. It's
you
irrational.
have to have irrational positive beliefs to make shit happen. Because if you just
100%.
look at what's around you, and it depends where you're raised, and I think in some senses that the environment you grow up in, if you grow up in an entrepreneurial environment where people are very successful, lots of it around you, it's not going to seem so rational.
Yeah.
And like I've been lucky, there are some entrepreneurial people in my family, particularly my dad, who are like, so I had some exposure to like, okay, you can make your life better through your own hard work. But a lot of the surrounding culture, friends, school, most people don't really have that in their lives. And if you pay attention to all that noise around you, you're going to get dragged down to this level, like the crab bucket mentality. So
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. I think growth is rational. I can build a formula for incremental growth, 10%. I think transformation is irrational. That's when you need to dig into the damn crevice of your soul, man, and just pull something out. And that, you know what I mean? Like that's how I see it. Like growth, you can map very rational numbers. Transformation, irrational, man.
yes. So I was going to get on to some more kind of business related stuff, but we've actually come up on like 45 minutes, which is how long I like to run these interviews. And things have come into a very nice place where we start to talk more about the spiritual side. So I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about any more business stuff right now. I'm going to
We're gonna
wrap
have a
things
part
up.
two at some point in the future.
I'm going to wrap. Yeah, absolutely. We will. I'm going to wrap things up with a thank you. But before I do that and just finish up, I would just like, how do people find out about you? How do they connect with you? How does someone reach out to work with you or just to have a conversation?
And my line is always open. You can just hit up my site. I have like a little Calendly blocks, as we do in the internet world. Yeah, feel free to
What's your
book in a
website,
call.
Sam?
So revenuelabz.com with a Z.
Okay.
www.revenuelabz with a Z.com. So
I'll put a link to that into the video description when I upload this to
awesome,
YouTube.
John. Thank you so much. I was going to come up with something witty, but I couldn't think of something witty, so I just went with the boring option, man.
Not at all. But Sam, thank you so much for coming. It's great having you on with me today. It's great being your friend. We've been friends, I think, like 3 years now, and I think we'll be friends for many more years to come. So, yeah, just grateful for you, bro. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, bud. Always a pleasure, dude. Great speaking.